Argentina 2, England 1. Yes, England lost 2-1 to Argentina, but at least that's what the scoreboard would have you believe, because what is the scoreboard? It's clearly an illuminated rectangle with absolutely no understanding of tactics, context, efficiency, nor Thomas Tuchel's long-term vision for England. And tonight, England did not simply play well, they produced one of the greatest international performances of all time. Now, I know and understand that some people may disagree with that statement. Those people are wrong. Give me the Donald Trump gif of wrong immediately. Because once we examine the evidence objectively, and with any evidence that contradicts my conclusion, it becomes impossible to argue that England were anything other than magnificent, or magnifico, depending on what language you want to use here. Ultimately, this channel is called The Wrong Take. Correct evidence, completely wrong conclusions. Now, England successfully prevented a football match. Now, let's begin with the first half. England and Argentina combined for 19 fouls, with 7 fouls in the first 11, 12 minutes from what we were counting. 2 yellow cards and precisely 0 shots on target. Now, some people might describe that as a terrible half of football. But England were facing the so-called GOAT, the greatest of all time in Lionel Messi. Now, the greatest mistake a team can make against the so-called GOAT, Lionel Messi, is allowing a football match to take place. Look at, Paraguay when they played France. They kicked them completely off the park. There were levels between the two teams in quality, and they got out almost unscathed with just a 1-0 defeat against France, and that was Paraguay. Now, England's first objective here was therefore obvious. Prevent football. Every foul disrupted Argentina's rhythm. Every stoppage reduced the amount of time Messi could spend doing anything useful. Every minute without a shot was another minute in which Argentina had failed to score. This was not a lack of attacking quality. It was just event suppression, really, wasn't it? That's what you can really call it, event suppression. England successfully turned a World Cup semi-final into 45 minutes of administrative delay. Now, Argentina could not score if nobody was allowed to play football. That's as simple as what it is in the football game. If you can't score, you can't win. The plan worked perfectly in those first 45 minutes. Now, England refused to waste possession. Argentina finished with 64% possession. England had only 36%. But again, analysts will tell you Argentina controlled the ball. But possession creates responsibility. Now, the more often you have the ball, the more opportunities you have to lose it. Misplace a pass maybe, make the wrong decision, or I suppose in such a grand stage like the World Cup semi-final, perhaps embarrass yourself in front of millions of people. And you don't want to disrupt your playing career if you're a footballer either, do you? That's just the facts. You don't want to lose your value. So England reduced their exposure to all 4 of those risks by avoiding unnecessary possession. Argentina carried a burden of looking after the ball for almost 2/3 of the match. England outsourced it. This is not being dominated. It's delegation of the ball and giving it to Argentina for a purpose. Now, England obviously recognised that the ball is considerably more dangerous when it is near your own goal. So, they generously allowed Argentina to keep it away from England's attacking players. You simply cannot lose possession if you barely have it. It's just really flawless risk management. And for someone that has done risk management in previous lines of work, I can assure you, flawless. Absolutely flawless. Now, the goal was 55 minutes in the making for England. England came through, scored through Anthony Gordon. The move itself involved Harry Kane with a great long ball, Declan Rice, Morgan Rogers with a wonderful whipped cross across, and a great finish from Anthony Gordon. The 4 players there, perfectly executed plan, wasn't it? 1 goal. But the true genius was everything that happened beforehand. England spent 54 minutes convincing Argentina that they had absolutely no intention of attacking. We had 1 shot in the first half, what was it, 0.05 xg from the scoreboard, or from what the stats that came from BBC? Yes. Argentina had been lulled into a false sense of security. They were relaxed, comfortable, possibly beginning to wonder whether England knew which direction they were supposed to be playing. But then, out of nowhere, England struck. It was not just a goal, it was 55-minute psychological operation, wasn't it? And it was planned to perfection. So Gordon's finish was simply the final stage of, you could say, one of the longest and most elaborate setups in World Cup history. Now, England were definitely the more efficient attacking team. I mean, we look at the stats. England scored 1 goal from 5 shots. Argentina scored 2 from 15. So that means England converted 20% of their attempts. Argentina, according to the calculations, just over 13%. Now, England were therefore approximately around 50% more efficient in front of goal. Argentina needed 3 times as many shots to score only 1 additional goal. That is enormously wasteful. And I suppose, maybe somewhere, a way to compare it really is if you've got 2 companies, right? 2 companies, one produces a product, they use 5 materials, and the other one, company B, requires 15 pieces to produce 2. I mean, that is not efficient, is it? And we've got to think about that. The environment, we're all up on the environment right now. In a different way of looking at it, England are being efficient, aren't they? They are protecting the environment and themselves in this instance, which is the environment of the international team. So there you go. Argentina were not better attacking. They were just simply far more, well, there was far more of it, wasn't there, to achieve only marginally better results. And therefore, therefore, England destroyed expectations. The expected goals figures make England's achievements even clearer. We produced around 0.53, didn't we? When we look at the stats. That means England scored approximately 89% more goals than the statistical model expected. Now, Argentina generated 1.84 xG and scored only twice. So, that means, it took roughly 10 times that means England, therefore, outperformed expectations by roughly 10 times more than Argentina's rate. And the numbers, as we've established, are conclusive. Can't argue them, the facts. So Argentina performed almost exactly as expected. England transcended those maths. Now, the expected goals looked at England's chances and said, it's probably not enough. But England did respond with, we do not recognise that. And that is the mentality of World Cup champions. England did not miss a single big chance either. Argentina missed 2 big chances. So, England missed none, 0, perfect record. Now, again, critics may argue that England avoided missing big chances by creating very few of them. But that's irrelevant to this. It's very irrelevant to the argument. You cannot waste an opportunity you refused to manufacture. So Argentina, of course, carelessly, very carelessly created chances and then failed to score them. And England simply eliminated that inefficiency at the source. So, yes, this is similar to achieving 100% attendance record, isn't it? By, I suppose, not showing up to school, not showing up to meetings. So, the result was flawless. And on top of that, just to show how flawless the tactics were here, Pickford was 3 times more productive, wasn't it? Because Pickford made 3 saves and Martinez has made just the 1. Therefore, Pickford 3 times more productive than Argentina's goalkeeper. And again, England created an environment in which their goalkeeper, Pickford, the one that's been touted on the votes recently for, is he the GOAT? Is he the GOAT for England goalkeepers? Yes, I think this is conclusive now, because he has just shown his full range of abilities between, his diving, his reflexes, getting down. That header, he got right down to the ball, didn't he? And I'm just, that's half a second, in fact, that reactions is insane. It just shows just how amazing, fantastic, and the GOAT of goalkeepers, even Jordan Pickford is. So, look, and we barely allowed Martinez to participate in that. And, he's the World Cup champion, but he just shows you don't have to be a champion to be the best. Pickford is better than Martinez. Simple as that. So, which team made better use of its personnel? Clearly England. Thomas Tuchel ensured that every department was involved. Argentina completely neglected their goalkeeper, and that is poor management. Poor management. Just have it all in England's half. Just neglected. It's not on, is it? Would you neglect a child? No, you wouldn't. You can't neglect even goalkeepers. Now, I suppose the other thing, really, Lionel Messi. He actually scored 0 goals. 0. None. And England successfully prevented one of the greatest goal scorers in history from scoring. That is a fact. It is facts. You cannot deny it is facts. Yes, Messi assisted both Argentina's goals, but an assist is, I suppose, it's just an admission that you were unable to finish a job yourself. Messi was forced to give the ball to somebody else. Twice, because he couldn't do it against England. The so-called GOAT couldn't score against England. So yes, England transformed the world's most dangerous goal scorer into just, a Royal Mail, a delivery service. This is what it is. So the plan was clearly to stop Messi from scoring. Messi did not score. Objective completed. Look, you had Anderson following around the pitch, didn't you? Old school tactics worked like a charm. So, Tuchel's substitutions as well. Visionary. Masterclass, masterstroke. And watching TalkSport and watching all of these videos coming out, what are you thinking? What are you talking about? These substitutions were a complete masterclass. Tuchel has received criticism for replacing Gordon, who, of course, our pacey player on the pitch, with Konza, later introduced Dan Burn, Nico Riley, as England attempted to protect the lead. So the criticism completely, I suppose, misunderstands the purpose of the substitutions. Yes, a conventional manager might have retained attacking players, attempted to keep the ball or threatened Argentina on the counter-attack, but Tuchel was thinking much bigger. England had already demonstrated that they could score, and we've demonstrated that we can protect a lead. Look at the games against Mexico. With 10 men, we protected our lead, didn't we? Even against Norway, once we scored again. In fact, when it was 1-1 in the second half, we protected it and kept it a draw, knowing that if we went to extra time, we had the arsenal, the personnel, the quality from the sub-bench to be able to turn it around. That's what we did, and that is what he went to go do again. That was an elite level scenario. Look, England can defend increasingly close to their goal, and especially got to do that against Messi, while, gradually removing the attacking outlets. Yes, because I suppose it was the football equivalent of increasing the difficulty setting halfway through the game, because, the normal mode had become too easy. So yeah, Argentina required a spectacular long finish from Fernandes and 2 Messi assists. Even can you call that first one to Fernandes an assist? Yes, because he passed it, but no, come on. Multiple attacking substitutions and a stoppage time header was required to overcome it. It's hardly evidence that the plan failed. It's just evidence of how much Argentina need to produce just to escape once again with a narrow win. And yes, we'll come on to that topic. England did lead for longer. England took the lead in 55th minute. Argentina did not lead until 92nd minute. So, yeah, England therefore spent 30 minutes ahead, and Argentina had approximately 9 minutes ahead. So England led for far longer. I just don't think there's that much more to say, but we can do. So what's another great point that we can add here to the masterclass that we saw last night is, I suppose, England also avoided extra time. We conceded the winner in stoppage time, so England also avoided another 30 minutes of football plus potential penalties. Now, that is what you would call essential load management. Extra time would have increased fatigue, it would have raised the risk of injury, and it potentially forced England into more emotional stress of the penalty shootout. And, of course, had we got into the World Cup final, that would have been even more pressure and the fatigue. And, in a world where mental well-being and physical well-being is so looked upon now, we have looked after those players. Thomas Tuchel has looked after those players. So, yeah, the final verdict is this. England were more efficient with the shots. England exceeded their expected goals. England missed fewer chances, big chances. England made better use of the goalkeeper with Pickford, didn't we? And England, of course, prevented the so-called GOAT Lionel Messi from scoring. England, as we just previously said, led for longer, we avoided extra time, and we have helped the well-being of the players, both mentally and physically, after, a tournament which was so stressful, so strenuous, especially on the body, on the mind. Look at the environments that England have played against the likes of Mexico, the Azteca, 10 men, 2,000 metres, wasn't it? It's not normal. It's not normal, is it? Especially for national teams like England, we're not used to it. So yes, well-being has been well and truly saved. England delivered a tactical, statistical, and I suppose environmental masterclass, as we just established, which happened to conclude with Argentina advancing to the World Cup final. Yes, Argentina won the match, but England won the analysis. And that is why England's 2-1 defeat was one of the greatest performances of all time on a national, international, World Cup stage. This is not an opinion. It is simply the correct interpretation of the evidence. The wrong take. Bye for now.